We're really pleased to welcome you today to this panel that is called Charity Starts at Home, looking at sort of UK domestic programs here in the UK. For many of us in the Muslim charity sector, when we think of charity or aid, the first thing that comes to our mind is international work, overseas work. And especially in the previous years, our focus has always been on our community working towards international crises around the world, whether that be Gaza, whether that be Sudan, etc. But this is starting to shift, right? Across the sector, we are now seeing much more UK-led organisations working for UK programmes across the country. We're really addressing the needs of the UK people, and we have a number of amazing grassroots organisations, two of which we'll be hearing from today, up and down the country that are now leading and responding to poverty, inequality, marginalisation, and affecting our own communities in our own cities. What we're trying to explore today in our session is, what does it mean to say charity starts at home? What needs are we not seeing and addressing? And how can our institution, our faith values, and our strategies arise to meet those needs? So my name is Shakil Sidat. I am the Director of Operations at National Zakat Foundation. I joined National Zakat Foundation 2 years ago. So previous to that, I was in international development at Muslim Hands, and I just felt that there was a real calling for UK domestic programs, and the sector was growing, and I really wanted to join that movement towards UK programs. NZF, for those that are not aware, is a UK-only Zakat charity. We don't work abroad. We distribute Zakat locally, directly to Muslims in need, through cash support to Zakat-eligible individuals here in the UK. Last year, we supported roughly around 24,000 people, last year. And we support from everything from emergency, hardship grants, housing support, and training programs. Our mission in the UK is to make sure Zakat is localized and used to build dignity, resilience, and community. I also chair, I'm not trying to brag, but I also chair the UK Programmes Working Group at MuslimCharitiesForum, which is made up of a range of organisations running domestic programmes from Muslim Hands, Islamic Relief, etc., many, many others. And it's a collaborative space to share, learning, identify best practices, and working together to strengthen our collective impact. So today, inshallah, we have three great speakers. Each one will be speaking for around about 7 to 10 minutes about their work and experience. And then we'll move on to open discussions and some questions from the audience. We have some prepared questions as well, but if you have questions, then you'll have some time to ask questions at the end. So without further ado, I'll introduce our first speaker. Taha Bokhari is a lead analyst at Joseph Rowntree Foundation, an independent organisation working to inspire social change and end poverty in the UK through research, policy and practice. At JRF, Taha plays a key role in generating evidence and insights around poverty, care, family and relations. He has previously worked at Welcome, Citizens Advice, and the National Housing Federation, developing expertise across welfare, housing, employment and health. He has led multiple projects focused on equity and inclusion, using large data sets as understanding society. And today, inshallah, he'll be presenting insights from JRS UK Poverty Report and what needs to change in how we understand and act on poverty in the UK. Over to you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for having me, Shakil. I'll be presenting some findings from our report, UK Poverty 2025. It's an annual report detailing poverty for many different groups. And I'll be speaking to some of those today. You've described who Joseph Rowntree are. So we're going to move on. Just a quick note about, should I wait for this? Yeah. Okay. This isn't eating into my time, is it? Yeah, please. Okay. Oh, the session's getting a plug, so we should probably wait for that. Okay. So you will hear a lot of talk about poverty in media. But this is what it actually means for people that experience poverty. It's being able to not be able to afford your rent, pay your rent, heat your home, everyday impossible decisions, marginalization, something our community knows obviously a lot about, but this time compounded because of your financial circumstances, and means you cannot participate fully in society. This is a more technical note. What does poverty mean? In terms of data, in terms of data, what it means is that the median income, which is the middle income of all people in the UK, 60% of that, if you're below 60% of that median income, you're in poverty. So we'll quickly kind of skip through because I've only got less than 10 minutes. Almost 15 million people in poverty in the UK. That breaks down, as you can see, into 4 million, just over 4 million children, and quite a lot more working age adults. In terms of our communities, the data to express this in religion is not very easily accessible. So I'm going to talk about Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities, respectively. There's 1.1 million Pakistani and Bangladeshi people in poverty. That's 50% of all Pakistani and Bangladeshi people. That means in this room, 1 in 2, if you're from Pakistani and Bangladeshi people, statistically 1 in 2 of you is living in poverty. That's 1 in 5 for overall, so you can see how much more poverty is prevalent in our communities. And it hasn't really moved in 20 years. It's been about 1 in 2 overall, and worse for our kind of the communities that we come from. But the story is that people even further away from the median income, so people 40% below the 40% line of median income, below 50% of the median line of income, they're making a greater proportion of everyone in poverty. So the people in poverty now, compared to 20, 30 years ago, are further away from getting out of it. That's kind of appeared weirdly, so I'm just going to skip past that one. And those overall rates of poverty, so that 1 in 5 overall people in the UK in poverty, that hasn't changed since about 2003. That masks what's happening underneath. So child poverty rates are bigger if you're a single parent, are bigger if you are in households with 3 or more children, are bigger or biggest when you have a young family. I think to skip on, just to bring out that statistic, so 49% of Pakistani households, 56% of Bangladeshi households are in poverty. Talking about charity starts at home today, and this is a statistic to remind you why that should be. In our communities, poverty is a big part and maybe not thought about. Something about housing. A lot of our community live in social housing. A lot of our community rent privately. That contributes a lot to poverty. So what you can see, the blue is poverty, people in poverty without taking into account their housing costs. You can see that even accounting for housing costs, the poverty rate for people who own their homes outright doesn't change. But when you account for poverty, when you account for housing costs, so people paying rent or social rent or whatever that is, poverty rate almost doubles. You can see how that grows once your housing costs are taken into account. Housing plays a big role in driving poverty. And actually, sadly, work alone is not enough to eliminate poverty. You can see there, around 2/3 of working age adults live in poverty, live in working households. So there's people working in that household, but that's not getting them out of poverty. And whilst it is mitigated a little bit for full-time and part-time employees, self-employed employees, you can see how much that falls for full-time employees there. So remember that overall stat, thank you, overall stat, 1 in 5 people in poverty, it's just 1 in 10 if you're full-time employed. That's still 1 in 10 people. And then just a quick one there on where poverty is in the UK, where it kind of concentrates. Don't know how good your geography is. London, down here. A lot of poverty, quite high rates of poverty in London. Lower in the south of England, outside of London. And you can kind of see a pattern a little bit. That's the West Midlands, Birmingham, where a lot of our community resides. Up here, Manchester, Yorkshire over here, that's Leeds, Bradford. Those darker coloured areas tend to have people that look like us in them. So a lot of poverty in the areas that we grow up in. And actually, I think I'll finish a little bit earlier, but what we've seen over the last 20 years is no real movement. Why is that? Because there's not really been a concentrated effort to reduce poverty. So in the Blair years, you saw a lot of funding going towards Sure Start centres, going towards kind of reducing poverty that meaningfully with benefit rates. Obviously, in the time of the Conservative administration, a lot of that support has been stripped away. And people are further away from getting out than they used to be, as we kind of talked about earlier in terms of deepening poverty. So still a lot of challenges to overcome. And I think in terms of what we can do, it doesn't paint an exciting picture, but we as a community need to advocate for change. We need to really pressure the government. You saw yesterday, the day before, on Tuesday, a massive climb down from the government on cutting benefits for disabled people in terms of the personal independence payment. That doesn't happen without pressure. Pressure on doing the right thing, pressure on being, found out, on talking some talk, but then not walking that walk. So what we can do as a civil society is really add our voices and add our energy to those campaigns to push the government to make the right decision. How we can do that locally is by talking to our councillors, talking to our local MPs, making our presence felt as a community. If you live in London, Muslims in London make a higher proportion in London and outside. You put your pressure on your council to talk councillors and your local MPs to make the right choice when it comes to big decisions like what we saw on Tuesday. And this is just a quote from our chief executive, so I won't read it out. I'm not paid enough to read that out. But fundamentally, how do you get people out of poverty? You increase their income or you reduce their costs? I think recently we've seen a lot of talk on poverty because things feel really expensive. And in recent times, our communities have had to step in to provide help. I think, we talk about why Charities starting more at home. I think it's because we can see it in the people we live with and pray with. But the fundamental change happens when we push our representatives to kind of make those big choices for us. So I'll finish there and pass on to Sammey.
So, just before I'll introduce Sammey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Taha. From our perspective, first of all, thank you to JRF for the amazing work they do. For anyone that doesn't know what JRF do, a lot of the media bulletins that you hear on the BBC News about poverty comes from the JRF Foundation's research and advocacy work. So they do lead the conversation pieces and the policy work for hundreds and millions of people, not just here in the UK, but around the world as well. Obviously, I know you're just working here in the UK, but it really helps lots of charities develop their programs on there. Everything he said, we actually hear and see at National Zakat Foundation. This year, we're now having around 13,000 applications every month. That's unprecedented. We used to have roughly around about 5 or 6, sorry, Lucy's nodding away, so she's our previous chief operating officer at National Zakat. We used to have around about 5,000 or 6,000, even as early as last year, right? we are seeing a huge growth in need in the community. And the biggest change we're seeing is working age poverty. So not just working age poverty, but working people poverty, people who are in jobs but are now at the poverty level. And child poverty is just out of the roof. It's such a big problem, and it's a pandemic in our own society as well. So thank you, Brother Taha. I'll introduce Brother Sammey. Brother Sammey Ahmed is a youth officer at Deaf World, a charity dedicated to empowering deaf and hard of hearing young people across the West Midlands. Passionate about representation and inclusion, they lead projects that build confidence, develop skills, and strengthen community support among deaf youth. Guided by the principle that their charity starts at home, their work reflects a deep commitment to making a meaningful and local impact. Over to you, Sammey.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Sammey Ahmed. I am profoundly deaf, and I've got my interpreter here with me as well, so there may be a slight delay in the responses because they're here to support me today. So thank you for that. I'm really proud to be a Muslim, and follow Islam. And Deaf World, where I work, is a registered charity that was set up in 2009. Yeah. Obviously, we help people who are deaf and hard of hearing. We encourage people to participate in our projects and stuff. We want to help to reduce mental health problems and just help advocate for people to get involved in the society, to improve educating them to be independent. Obviously, we do sort of road to enrichment projects, cricket projects. We do trips and day trips. We do a steering group, so we have lots of different things to help people, to help us to know what we want to produce for the community. So we've got lots of signposting opportunities for different things. So obviously with schools and colleges, lots of things we're working with different groups to be able to have that big impact and help the young deaf community to get involved and become up to speed, really, because there's been a lot of issues where they fall behind. Obviously, in the school, we've been working with a deaf school where we've been meeting various people, providing services, meeting parents who feel, they need to support their deaf children, but maybe there isn't anything there for them. So we've set up pathways, projects for them. We also set up a driving project because they couldn't drive. So what we did was we had a look around at various different things, and we just felt that, our charity, we approached different people for different funding. And so obviously we needed that to help the deaf people, and the deaf charities have been quite a small thing, really. So the funding, we recognise that needs support, but we've only had a small amount for us, really. So we need a lot of support, and we're trying to get that. For example, the NHS youth space, they do training, which is fantastic for all young people as well. So there was 90 people plus staff that were learning from that, and it made them realise, they sort of compared from different organisations and Muslim organisations that they need more signposting for that. Because there's obviously 5 reports that have various different bits of information for organisations that were submitted up for an annual report. So from organisation. So we looked through that report, and obviously we identified that there was 5 keywords. There was disability, disabled, deaf-blind, special needs. There was different words in this report from different organisations, but there wasn't anything in there. There wasn't any word in there that was inclusive in that report for deaf. So we felt that there was it wasn't equal and inclusive of the deaf community. And I feel extremely passionate about that being included, and us being included and being represented appropriately in those areas. So in those reports, it should include, and they should have deaf representation when they're creating them. Like, for example, at our mosque, You know, when we have the speaker at the mosque and we have the audience there and the participants, and they engage brilliantly. And then the imam there, we were like, what happens with the deaf? How do they connect? You know, there's no support there. There was no interpreter there. So when we've had group discussions and stuff, there's been nothing there. So the deaf community have fell behind because of it. And they've disengaged because, you know, they haven't been empowered or haven't been allowed to participate, which became extremely frustrating. So how do we move forward to make that better for the community? So one of the best ways that we did was we had the deaf charity. We collaborated with different organisations, and we met with different people, and we spoke about what we could do. So we had that networking and interaction, and then we made it clearer as to how we needed to work together and make things stronger and move things forward for us to actually work and be involved. So obviously in the future it's been better. It's a lot better. So obviously all children and adults as well. We want the parents as well. It's important for them to encourage their children to grow too. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Sammey, for highlighting an area of real difficulty within our community. It's unfortunate that there's lots of communities in the UK that are not represented within our discussion. So thank you for coming and speaking about that. Our next speaker, Brother Ayub Sidat, no relation as far as we're aware, is the CEO here for Youth, and he's been in the Muslim charity sector for over 15 years, collaborating with some of the world's leading outreach, education and community development organisations. In the UK, he oversees a network of more than 70 mosques and community centres and over 600 trained youth leaders who engage with more than 2,000 teenagers each week. Mosques have a long history of positive involvement with civil society, from food banks and humanitarian aid to homeless shelters and vaccination clinics. Research shows that teenagers need a local, safe space staffed by culturally competent youth leaders or trusted adults. Mosques are the most underused resource in our community. By transforming a mosque into an ideal youth club, they can motivate and empower teenagers to be confident in their identity and provide access to peers and local mentors or role models who help develop strong, positive character traits, preparing them for a lifetime of success.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That introduction was so comprehensive, I don't think I need to say anything. I think we could just go straight into Q&A. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's a pleasure to join you all on, thankfully, a cooler day than we've had this week. I was really anxious at the beginning of the week that the AC wouldn't be able to cope with, sweltering 38-degree heat. But, we've caught a break, alhamdulillah. Charity starts at home. This is a really interesting topic, and it's doubly interesting for everyone sat in the room here. Now, we're in a very unique gathering. Everyone who's here is, a professional in one sense or another. You work for a charity, you're involved in charitable projects, and you have the freedom and the flexibility in your life to be able to take time out to attend a conference like this. So that makes you super privileged. In the Muslim charity sector, you are probably in the top 0.25% of people who do charity work. Because the majority of people in our space, in our sector, are volunteers. They give their time, they give their evenings, they give their weekends, every moment that they have to do this work. So reflecting on the blessing of even being in this room, it's important for us as well to make sure that charity starts at home. Last year, or a few years ago, I was delivering a youth session at a mosque in South London. And one of the, after the session, this is for teenagers, and after the session, one of the mums comes up to me and she says, thank you for the session. My teenager really appreciated it. Can I ask you for some help? I said, absolutely, how could I help? She said, my husband is also involved in the charity sector, very active, does lots of amazing outreach work, but he's away from home. We don't see him. Could you help me with some money to pay for the kids' madrasa fees? So whilst we are busy, and this morning we talked about impact, we're all working on impactful projects. With the topic Charity Starts at Home, for us in this room at this conference, charity really needs to start at home. Really needs to. Because the actions that we put forth, the barakah, the blessings, and the work that we do will emanate from our own lives. And that's what we'll carry forward. If you want to see impact, we had a great session this morning. Another word for impact, or to see that impact, is barakah. And if your life itself is devoid of barakah, of blessings, if your connection with your Creator isn't there, then that will translate directly into the work that you do. So when we say charity begins at home, charity starts at home, I wanted to start by starting with us. And us in this room, fortunate, blessed to be able to attend the conference in the middle of the week. And that directly relates to the youth leaders and the communities that we work with. So as Shakil mentioned, Sidat as well, no relation. You can tell because, our ancestors decided to diverge and change the spelling of our surnames, thankfully, just to set us apart. For, I would say, 99% of the youth leaders, the youth workers that we've trained and coached, nearly 700 of them all over the country, when Taha showed the map, all the areas of highest deprivation, I realized, looking at your map, were all the areas where we have the highest concentration of our youth clubs. SubhanAllah. And this is a trait that's synonymous with the Muslim community. Where the community is in need, the community steps up. So when I looked at the map, I was like, SubhanAllah, in all those dark blue areas, I could point to where we have services for teenagers. So as Shakil mentioned, alhamdulillah, as an organization, we oversee more than 70 mosques and community organizations all over the country, nearly 700 youth leaders impacting thousands of teenagers every week. But what those youth leaders have in common with you and with everyone in the charity sector here is that they're volunteers. They're giving their time, they're giving their efforts. And again, this is their evening and weekend after spending a whole week working. Now, if I was to ask a question to the room, how many, like any sector, we have teachers, qualified professionals that have been through training, etc. How many qualified youth workers do you think serve the 70-odd communities that we work with? Let's just throw a number out. 4. Any higher than 4? 4 is an interesting number. Why 4? Whoever said 4. So yeah, we work with 70 communities. Roughly, I think just over 50% of those are mosques, the others are all community centers. How many paid, qualified, full-time, part-time youth workers do you think serve those 70 communities? 10. Any higher than 10? Going on. 20? Anyone else? The answer is actually 5. So number 4 wins. See me at the end for a prize. And this is indicative of the state of the sector. That even in our microcosm of the youth work sector, there are only 5 paid youth workers, part-time, full-time, who are serving, this huge network. Which means that the rest of the sector is all led by volunteers. Now, contrast that with half the Muslim population in the UK, more than 2 million Muslims, being under the age of 25. And according to the MCB, by 2031, there will be more than 500,000 teenagers. 500,000 Muslim teenagers. Investment is sorely needed. And if we don't invest in our young people, if we don't invest in these programs, we can look at the communities around us, and the situations and the state that young people are in. And we're already seeing, we've talked about poverty, we talked about crime, we talk about, earlier we talked about the prison population. But this is just the start of that bell curve. And if that doesn't frighten you, it should. This is the start of the bell curve. Our population is young, our population is growing, and without engagement, without safe places, without mentors for them to reach, it will only continue to grow. The gap will only continue to widen. So as an organization, that's why I'm here. As an organization, we work with communities on the ground. Our aim is to ensure, one of our visions is to ensure that every young person, every teenager has access to a safe space and mentors in their local area. I've heard horror stories of people traveling 2-3 hours by bus just to attend a session or a class that lasts for 45 minutes and then traveling 2-3 hours back. It's not sustainable. We need to be creating local safe spaces where young men, young women can come in and find a home away from home. Find mentors there. We heard earlier today about culturally competent, or what was the phrase? Yeah. Culturally competent with regards to our impact. And that's exactly what our youth leaders need to be. The sessions that we help create and the organizations that we help establish all over the country, the mentors are there to be a guide for young people. The mentors are there to give them someone to talk to. The space is there as a safe space where they can come and be on their phone, and they can come and play PS4, and they can come and do whatever they want to do, but they're in a safe and supportive environment. Now, circling all the way back to those mentors and back to where charity starts at home, there's a huge amount of investment needed. There are only 5 youth workers, qualified youth workers that we know serving the communities that we work with. As an organization, and I can see Aftab looking at me at the back there because I've been talking to him about this for so long, and he's like, why have you not talked to me about this more? And may Allah bless the Aziz Foundation sitting over there. But one of the things that we are working on is trying to address this gap, and investment is needed on taking the nearly 700 youth leaders that we've created over the last few years and channeling them into professional pathways so that they can become qualified youth workers. They can deliver their services. I wouldn't say a professional service because they're already professional, but they can deliver a service that is recognized. They can deliver a service that is much more impactful for the Muslim community. There are so many more things that I could talk about, but I think Shakil's giving me eyes. So with that, I will conclude, and the only thing I would say is that charity starts at home. It starts with us, our families, and extends out into the communities. And if there's a broken link along the way, you'll feel it in the work that you do. So may Allah give us all sincerity and accept the work that we do, and may we see the benefit and the barakah of it in this life and the next. Ameen.
Thank you very much. The reason why we're a little bit pushed for time, unfortunately, but we have 10 minutes for question and answers. So I'm going to open up. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I've been told we have 3 minutes for question and answers. I see a hand raised right at the end. So what I'm gonna ask if we can get 2 questions at the same time, and then we'll answer both questions. Unfortunately, we'll only have space for 2 questions. So the hand at the back. I don't know if we've got a mic. Do you wanna?
She doesn't need a mic.
So yeah, the hand up went really quick when I said question, so I'll let her stop. Excellent, thank you. And second question? Sorry, the brother's hand went up, so.
So we're a city in the northeast, and we don't have this luxury of having this very isolated Muslim community. And I think today, just something like we're here today, and myself, I'm one of the founders of the project, got founded in the midst of COVID after a first Muslim youth murder, Muslim on Muslim. It never happened in our city, but these are problems that happen. So we set up as a community organisation, but today it's been 5 years this year, and we're very isolated. We have 45 partners, none of them are Muslim. Well, 2 Muslim charities, yeah. But I just want to kind of say that, to yourselves and everybody aware that there is communities which are not fortunate to be in the West Midlands, the Manchesters, the Bradfords and all this, and them communities are isolated, they're very young communities. We've got 23 different languages spoken. Sudanese communities are 200, 400, 600, and we're trying to keep everyone together. The mosques are, they are on a journey, but we all need that support. And I think the question is just to raise that awareness, but also don't forget about these regions.
Of course.
We've set up 6 football teams, we've set up jiu-jitsu clubs, and these are all Muslim-led. We've got 1,080 children registered to our programs. So it's not been nice, when I look around, I'm born involved, but it's really that support is needed. So remember them communities, and obviously I'd like to share that with you. So thank you for taking that time.
Thank you. So I'll hand it over back to the panelists. So the first question was about how do we really change mindsets of our donor groups and our wider communities? And then the second question is how do we do more for some of the other communities that we don't normally talk to, some of the more geographically isolated communities? Does anyone want to take the first or second question?
I'll quickly just say, I think as an analyst and a researcher, important to get the information of this out there. I don't know if many people were surprised by that statistic of 1 in 2 Pakistani or Bangladeshi communities is a person from those communities is in poverty. But I think shining a light on that is particularly important. When I was doing some prep for this event, I was looking at the main data set that we normally use to get these statistics. And that's when I realized there was no religion data available. You had to apply for that religion data for a specific project in order to get it. So I raised that within my team, and we're going to try and do that moving forward. But yeah, I think part of that is just part of the answer, I think, is shining a light on what's happening at home. And yeah, I think in terms of rural communities, I think I'll let someone else speak on that.
Sammey, anything?
Yeah,
yes, I will respond, sorry.
Yes, I'll respond, sorry. Yeah, I think it's really interesting as well talking about Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities and stuff. But I think the government, obviously, they're supporting the deaf community. I don't feel that there's enough support there for that. So I believe that our sort of home charities here, if you like, obviously they influence. We need to show how we're sort of influencing abroad and what we're doing over there as well, so what we can do and how we can become independent. And we feel that that pathway there, that's fine, but here the support, here the funding and stuff, that's we need sort of some more knowledgeable and about the charities more here at home. So we need more support really for us, for the deaf community. It's very difficult for us really because, that's sort of the difficulties that we do face. Yes. There's lots of systemic difficulties, yes.
So, with 1 minute, as Shakil said, this is a really important topic. Charity starts at home, especially with regards to all of us in the room today. We all represent organizations. It's important to remember that when our organizations were founded, for the majority of them, we're a community of immigrants. We're a diaspora community. And so the founders of the majority of the organizations, that's what they were focused on. They were focused on serving the needs of their communities back home. What does home mean now? For most people now, home is the UK, especially for most teenagers, in fact, for all teenagers. We recently completed a piece of research with Goldsmiths University where we looked into what does a Muslim youth identity look like. And young people identify themselves most of the time, in fact all of the time, as I'm Muslim and a Brahmi. I'm Muslim and a Londoner. I'm Muslim, and so we have to understand that when we're talking about charity beginning at home, and Jamila's question about what does home look like, as charity leaders, as leaders in the sector, as people who work in this space, it's now our responsibility to take what has been built, the legacies that we have, and now focus it. Ask yourself the question of every pound that you raise or spend, how much of it is going to the UK? And this is something that I speak to people in the charity sector about a lot, is that if we don't invest in the UK, that charity base, those donors that you love so much and they give you so much money, in 5 years, in 10 years, they won't exist. Because you will look no different to them than Comic Relief. You will look no different to them than Oxfam. If you don't maintain that bond with your community, if you don't help them to maintain their identity, if you don't invest in the UK, in the Muslim community. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, thank you. Once again, just a thank you to the panelists for their time. Another round of applause, please. We are really short on time, so I do want to apologize that we didn't get as many questions as possible, but the panelists are here all day. So if anyone does want to raise any questions with myself or any other panelists, please do come and speak to us during the rest of the day. I want to thank not just the panelists, I want to thank all of you for attending. I do want to thank MCF specifically as well. I know they're not in the room, but Brother Fawaz, Abdul Sammey have done amazing jobs, not just for setting up this conference, but really championing UK programs and domestic work in the UK. Setting up the UK working group was a great initiative, so any MCF members that have UK programs that want to get more involved, please do come and see either myself or MCF to get more involved in the working group. Also, keep an eye out on the next MCF magazine, which is called The Forum. Thank you. The MCF staff member volunteer wasn't aware of the title, but The Forum, the next article, the next issue is going to be about UK programs and showcasing some of the amazing work that we're doing up and down the country. I think there's a number of articles that have been written by lots of organizations up and down. So please do keep an eye on that. If you don't already have a subscription to that, do subscribe at the MCF website and hear about some of the amazing work that's Muslim charities are now doing in the UK. We talk about charity starts at home, but really what we're seeing, and as you can hear from our panelists as well, we're now not just doing charity in the UK, we're now reinventing charity for the UK. And the Muslim organizations, grassroots, local organizations are redefining what charity means here in the UK. And I do really want to commend, and we'll do a final applause for everyone, not just the people in this room, who are really doing some amazing work up and down the country, inshallah. So, alhamdulillah, reward them and grant them all the best for their intentions, inshallah. Jazakallah. Thank you all for coming.